So I haven't looked at just one part of a film for quite a long time, and so I felt it was time to change that. One of my favourite videos was looking in depth at the tech noir scene in The Terminator, and I wanted to do something like that again with a more recent film. Now, Blade Runner 2049 isn't an action film, though you could kind of argue Terminator 1 isn't, but I would probably disagree with you. 2049 is a mesmerising, beautiful science fiction that the more I watch, the more I fall in love with. Its almost 3-hour running time is absolutely stuffed with questions of what it is to be human, the meaning of dreams, the applications of technology, and so much more. For me, it is one of the greatest sequels ever made, and gets just everything it attempts captivatingly right, including its action sequences. Obviously, the action takes up a very small percentage of what happens within the film, but when it is there, it is not only handled brilliantly from a technical perspective, but also in a way that strengthens the narrative and deepens our understanding of the characters and the world they inhabit. Nowhere is that more obvious than in the fight between Kay and Love, beside the ocean wall, as Deckard threatens to be engulfed by huge crashing waves nearby. Now, Denis Villeneuve has proven over and over that he is an absolute master of creating tension, combining music and image into sequences either unsettling, hopeful, or somewhere in between. I am yet to see a film of his that for almost every second I was not on the edge of my seat. And he did that here as well. For me, the reason I adore this scene so much is for the control of so many elements around something quite contained, and in theory, fairly simple, that turn it into something startlingly affecting and memorable. It represents the culmination of the fantastic story, leading the now broken Kay to his physically most robotic, at the same time as showing us his humanity in simply fighting for Deckard, and does that with entwined support from Deakins' extraordinary visuals, Zimmer's incredible score, and some absolutely phenomenal sound work and production design. Everything here is there for a reason, and clearly planned and executed with such precision that you can feel every player in front of and behind the camera giving it every ounce of effort they have. I do believe that everything is there for a reason. The shot length, the set design, the ebb and flow of sound, the intonation of a line.
Home.
Even the degree of incline chosen beneath the feet of the characters. It's all been poured over again and again to create the perfect unison of elements that in the end is simply there to best tell the story. And what a story! The weird attraction and competition between Love and Kay reaches its inevitable conclusion. The thought that Kay once thought of himself as the child of Deckard and now is fighting to save this father figure. The potential entombing of Deckard, who in the end may just want this. It is telling where they end up after this. Through the, if you will, washing of Deckard. He's gone through the trials. He's come out alive. He's seen someone fight for him for once, and in doing so, now may at last feel deserving of meeting his child.
Just a moment.
We get 3 different types of very human cleansing here, if you will. A rebirth in Deckard, a death in Love, and a moment of understanding and self-revelation for Kay. In a story so based around technology, about the playing of God, it is water, one of the most natural elements there is, that fundamentally changes each of these integral characters, bringing out their most human elements. Even in the death of Love, held in a violent baptism under the water, you almost feel a certain relief in her, a wonder in her eyes as she looks up to Kay. And that fear of dying underwater, of loss of control, is so unbearably human. So much of the action here is about those thematic elements. In an interview of the sound team conducted by Polygon's Julia Alexander, mixer Doug Hemphill said, Villeneuve always wanted it to be a scene about 2 fights. The obvious battle between Love and Kay, and the far more bigger fight between all 3 of them, and the power of the ocean. Those battles are integral to the themes of the film, and to make that most clear, they went all the way in bringing it to the screen. Talking of the sound team, what they accomplished here is incredible. Action requires tension to work, and the sound of those waves crashing throughout, the gurgling screams underwater, the swells and calmer moments within the music. All build us towards a denouement that is both thematically relevant, somewhat unsettling, and ultimately cathartic. I've often spoken about the need for tension, a race against time, heroes that are for some reason weaker than their enemy, and so on. And this scene has all of that at play at the same time. We see love in Jacquet, whilst he fights to keep Deckard from drowning. We know, of course, that the rebellion needs love to lose this fight, which for some time it is unclear if she will. The water is on Love's side, with Kay fighting against her and the waves, and it is him turning those odds on her that makes her end so satisfying. Technically, this is all shot in a relatively simple way. These artificial humans with superhuman strength are never flashy in their moveset, and the film mirrors that. This is functional, and yet increasingly passionate. Villeneuve keeps it this way throughout the film. We know these are replicants, but feel in their more human, more real movements a passion for life. Really, the one line of dialogue we get
I'm the best one.
is to push Gosling into proving she isn't the best. That in itself feels pretty human, that need to prove yourself. The scene is otherwise entirely told through action. His cold, brutal drowning of her, it dehumanizes him. But that drive to prove her wrong, that realization that she might just win here, is very human. Everything leads us to where Kay needs to be for the story to finally wrap up. He understands completely what it is to be a replicant. Now perhaps the best one. But in selflessly saving Deckard, he's doing it for greater purpose.
Dying for the right cause is the most human thing we can do.
It is telling that for a film so grand, they resort to such a small-scale sequence as potentially the most important dramatic moment of the story. Because in the end, this is a film about finding the heart in the artificial, and it's the need to fight for something that shows the heart in the replicants. That is the power of action. To paraphrase a well-worn quote slightly, action speaks louder than words.